The desert doesn't get quiet, it hums, a low electrical note that sits just below hearing and runs through the tires, the dash, the bones. You learn to live with it after a few years on highway patrol. Some nights, it feels like the sound is keeping you company. My shift starts at 1900 hours out of the Wilcox substation. Unit 94 Delta, Silver Charger, 2 extra quarts of water in the trunk, and sand packed into every seam no matter how often I wash her. The day heat still shimmers in waves across the blacktop, bending the headlights decades ahead of me. No traffic, no calls, just a slow roll down US 191 with static from dispatch and a few Spanish ballads fading in from Mexico. At these hours, you know every landmark by silhouette. The windmill missing one blade, the double saguaro that looks like a tuning fork, the billboard for the old mining museum that shut down before I was born. Around mile marker 98, I pull onto the shoulder to log it all like I always do. Routine visibility check, dust advisories, nothing to note. When the wind dies, I can hear my own radio hissing through the open window. The sound almost forms words. I chalk it up to bleed over from CB truckers out on I-10. Still, I reach for the mic out of habit, thumb hovering over the key as if something expects an answer. The horizon holds still, but the hum in the air changes pitch. Half invitation, half warning. At 21:17, the hum snapped into silence, and my dash cam flickered like it had blinked. A pair of headlights waited a half mile up the asphalt, dead center in the lane, unmoving. I radioed dispatch, routine code. 94 Delta, possible 1046 northbound 191, plate illumination visible. Copy, 94 Delta, came the reply. Nothing off about the voice. Calm, female, new dispatcher on rotation. I eased forward. The car was a late 80s Chevy Caprice, pale blue, local plates sun-bleached almost white. Both doors shut, no dust trail, but the engine ticked like it had just stopped. I parked behind it, wig-wag flashers painting the empty road red and blue. Heat radiated off the metal like it was noon again. When I knocked on the driver's window, it bowed inward slightly. No driver, keys still in the ignition. The radio inside whispered a country song from 30 years ago, same 4 chords looping. I leaned in to check the VIN and froze. Air smelled wrong, sweet, plastic, like the interior had been newly minted seconds ago. Back at my cruiser, I ran the plate. Returns came through instantly. Vehicle VIN 342-A45, impounded Cochise County 1993, disposed of by auction. The screen flickered, then repeated the entry in a softer gray font, like an echo. I checked the tag again. Numbers matched exactly. Dispatch keyed up. Status check, 94 Delta. Do you have occupant contact? I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, the channel doubled itself. Same question, same words, softer. The 2 versions reached the end of the sentence together and fell silent. 94 Delta, copy? I answered both at once. Vehicle abandoned, request tow. The phrase distorted through the static, replayed backward into my own headset. Then all frequencies died. No click, no hiss, just a vacuum where sound should live. The Caprice's lights flared back on by themselves, red tail lenses glowing steady, not blinking. And in that continuous glow, the desert around us looked unreal, more stage than landscape. Somewhere far out in the sand, a voice identical to my dispatcher's said, perfectly clear without the radio, Unit 94 Delta, approach marker 113. I turned in slow motion, scanning the shoulder. There was no mile marker in sight. When comms return, it's not the same frequency. The hiss is cleaner, like someone polished the silence. 94 Delta, we've logged your request. Proceed carefully toward marker 113. Repeat, incident ahead. The voice was my dispatcher's exactly, but with a steadiness people only manage when reading. No chatter on the shared band, no other units checking in, just her tone perfect enough to feel practiced. I confirmed by habit, muscle over mind. 10-4, 98 to 113. Acknowledged. Then a pause. Another acknowledged, overlapping, same inflection, except for a dry rasp under the last syllable, as if somebody repeated from memory a second too late. I switched to the car laptop, tried to verify the call number. The CAD system scrolled red text. No active incident record. Repeat. Even the time froze at 21:19. I rubbed the display until my gloves squeaked on glass, half convinced it was condensation. Dispatch, confirm nature of incident, over. Dispatch, confirm nature, incident, over. Exactly my words, softer, distant, echoing through an empty studio. When I mute the speaker, the repetition continues faintly through the chassis metal. It feels like the car itself is carrying the transmission. I grabbed the road atlas from the glove box. Analog never lies. There's no marker 113 on 191. Mileposts skip from 112 to 114 because of an old construction reroute 20 miles back in '04. I remember the paperwork. I helped with the closure. The real dispatch finally breaks in, breathless. 9-4 Delta, we lost you on the board for 4 minutes. What's your 20? South of Bisbee, near 112. What's 113? Confused static. There is no 113. Through the windshield, lightning spidered dry across a cloudless sky, painting the sand dunes milky white for a heartbeat. When darkness returned, a new mile marker stood on the shoulder, a green reflective sign shining clean as mint paint. 113 in crisp white. The hum returned under the tires, tuned to the frequency of my own heartbeat. I stopped, 1 car length short of the new sign, engine idling. Every instinct shouted that this was a prank or a heat mirage, but the number glowed too clean. Fresh reflective paint, bolts without rust, sand still caught in the threads. When I shone the spotlight on it, my beam seemed to bend as if the air between us carried its own glass. Dispatch, I tried, showing unauthorized mile marker 113, requesting verification. Copy that, 94 Delta. Proceed with caution. The response overlapped again, identical phrase following half a second later. 2 dispatchers speaking in perfect unison, 1 human and 1 rehearsal. I left the shoulder cautiously. The desert here was a gray plain littered with creosote and half-buried fence posts stretching toward the Dragoon Mountains. If there had ever been a road branching from 191, erosion erased it long ago. Tonight, an exit materialized, a narrow asphalt frontage road glinting smooth and newly tarred, curving east into what maps still label no access. Every cop knows curiosity gets people killed. We also know that ignoring a directive from dispatch means paperwork thick enough to bury a career. So I flipped on body cam and followed the line of reflectors into the dark. After a quarter mile, the lane divided around a shallow median. Tire marks, fresh, led right. They matched cruiser tread exactly. I radioed again for any units in the area, and that's when my dashboard clock jumped backward 1 minute, then froze. Within the static came overlapping traffic blurts, routine citations, welfare checks, Code 5 surveillance, except every detail was decades out of date. Call signs from troopers long retired barked through sequentially like a roll call of ghosts. The new road ended at an embankment carved clean into the earth. Dirt still damp, edges glowing in the sodium light. The tracks ran into open desert where asphalt simply stopped. I stepped out, boots crunching on gravel that hadn't cooled from the day. Wind smelled of ozone and burnt rubber. Ahead, faint red strobes pulsed low to the ground. No siren, just rhythm like a slow heartbeat. Another patrol unit, older model Crown Vic, sat nose down in the scrub. Its hazard lights flashed steady, illuminating a reflective decal baked into the rear bumper. Arizona DPS, Unit 94 Delta, my unit number. When I turned to look behind me, my Charger's reflection in the Caprice's chrome bumper showed an empty driver's seat. The mic on my shoulder crackled, both dispatch voices whispering clear for the first time. On-scene confirmation complete. Welcome back. Training said to call it in. Fear said to throw it in reverse and burn rubber to I-10. Habit won first. I keyed the mic. Dispatch, 94 Delta, I'm at the vehicle. Need unit ID on 115 Charlie. They're showing active in my sector. 94 Delta, this is 115 Charlie, came a man's voice instantly, low and friendly. Good copy. We see your lights. Hold tight. The ground shook like a heavy semi passing, only we were 20 miles from the nearest highway. Across the sand, moving silhouettes glimmered in blue and silver. A convoy of state cars cresting the rise with lights running full code. Their reflection lit the desert for miles, except there was still no dust, no engine sound. They stopped 10 yards short, idling in total silence. Silence. One trooper stepped out, waving. His mirror sunglasses caught my flashlight beam, but so did the inside of his skull, empty behind glass, like someone had drawn outlines and forgotten to color them in. We've got scene management, Delta, he said through my earpiece, though his mouth never moved. Command wants you reporting to us now. I lowered the mic. You're on a restricted frequency. The grin flashed too wide. Only after hours. He tossed something that landed beside my boot. A shoulder patch embroidered Arizona Highway Patrol in a design discontinued in '76. The thread glittered wet, not metallic. Behind him, more officers stood in a neat row, motionless except for their radio cords coiling slowly, alive like snakes. Move along, 94 Delta. A female dispatcher layered under his baritone repeated the order a beat later. Scenes waiting at marker 115. I glanced toward the dark. No marker. Just a faint crimson glow smeared along the horizon, pulsing with the same slow rhythm as my heart through the Kevlar plates. Following their direction felt inevitable. Somewhere distant, both channels murmured approval. Traffic flow restored. The glow on the horizon grew steadier as I followed the phantom convoy, though after the first bend, only sand stretched ahead. Their lights vanished. Radio remained open, a heartbeat of static exactly every 3 seconds. After the 12th pulse, something metallic flashed in my high beams, a chassis half buried in the wash. A cruiser, patrol model 2 generations removed. Its paint had blistered away. Glass melted down the doors like wax. License plate twisted, but the last digits, 4D, were clear. My own tag. I climbed out, body cam's night vision painting everything in ghost greens. The wreckage steamed, even though the air felt cold. When I brushed one fender, grit came off in burnt flakes, and under it the paint looked brand new. Inside, ash coated the seats. Badges fused to the dash. Notebooks boiled to pulp. Something caught my beam at the passenger footwell. A stainless steel thermos, dented in the same corner as mine. I left mine back at the substation. The dash clock flickered 23:17, then 00, and stayed there while the radio whispered a call sign roll. Delta 94, Delta 94, Delta 94, until I yanked the battery cable. Without power, the speaker still hummed, carrying a female voice I couldn't swear was human. Report of fire contained. Self-evacuation in progress. Scratched into the soot across the windshield, just inside the defrost vents, were words written backward from within. Stay in your lane. A gust rustled the paperwork wedged under the seat. They were incident forms printed with tomorrow's date, my name filling the reporting officer line. One photo stapled to the corner showed this same wreck from an aerial view, time-stamped an hour ahead. Wind picked up, whistling across the frame into a single sustained tone. For 1 second, I thought I saw movement inside the rearview mirror, my reflection leaning closer, even though I stayed perfectly still. Then dispatch returned on the normal. Where are you, 94 Delta? Your unit's still parked outside the station. Behind me, the cruiser's siren whooped exactly once, a lonely half-second rising wail that died before the tone peaked. The second I grabbed the mic, both channels lit up, Real Dispatch on one side, Phantom on the other. They talked over each other like twins finishing the same sentence. 94 Delta, identify location. 94 Delta, maintain position. Words folded into a rhythmic hum, same cadence as a siren slowed to human speed. I gave the shorter answer. South of 113, found a burned unit, requesting confirmation of any prior wreck. Real Dispatch, negative, no accidents logged tonight. Phantom, confirmed, scene stable, status post-containment. They overlapped perfectly, two voices describing two realities. I heard breathing that wasn't mine inside the cab. My handheld scanner, off, hissed a steady carrier tone. Every channel blinked red simultaneously. On one of them, faint transmissions spilled through, routine chatter, license checks, pursuit updates, from call signs decommissioned decades earlier. I recognized half the names from Academy plaques. Dispatcher Jensen, dead since 1998, called my number once, casual drawl and all. Delta, you're clear to start report. We already signed the log. The air in the car felt crowded. Each syllable coming through the speakers left condensation on the window, as if spoken aloud. I shut the radio, disconnected power. The sound didn't stop. Instead, muffled versions bled from the metal frame itself, traveling along bolts into the steering column, into my bones, a sympathetic vibration. Real Dispatch screamed through the interference. You've been dark 12 minutes. We're reading you east of Safford. That's 80 miles from where I parked. Before I could answer, the Phantom channel cut in clearer than ever, whisper speed but perfectly enunciated. Loop achieved. Remain seated until extraction. The Charger jolted forward without my foot on the gas, headlights bouncing down an invisible grade. Radio speakers clicked in sequence, like applause, then unified into a single, assistant sweet voice I'd never logged at headquarters. Delta, reconciling records. You made good time getting back. Every metal surface in the cab vibrated on that phrase, getting back. Outside, the desert began to shimmer again, road lines shifting sideways like a turntable finding its groove. One moment asphalt, the next a mirror. The highway shimmered so hard it seemed liquid, my own headlights skimming over it like stones on water. The odometer spun, but the scenery stayed locked. Same boulder, same mesquite skeleton, same sliver of moon. Every radio frequency clicked alive with dispatch codes from no decade I knew. All units, traffic control initiated at marker 113. Keep lanes clear for the southbound convoy. The voice slid between male and female mid-word, like two people sharing the same mouth. Through the warp of heat haze, I saw flares ahead, orange halos forming an endless double line. Figures in reflective vests waved me forward. In my headlights, their movements looped, the same wave, same smile. Reset, again and again. I slowed. They were setting up a perimeter around nothing. No crash, no debris, no vehicles. Just flat desert striped with cones glowing from some unseen power source. Beyond them, dunes heaved gently as if breathing from underneath. One of the workers approached the window. Helmet, safety goggles, standard issue, except for the logo. Arizona Department of Highways, a division dissolved before I was born. He leaned in. You're late, Delta. We already sent the report. Before I could answer, he turned, body twitching through two slightly different postures like bad footage spliced out of phase. The cones flickered too, switching positions, migrating a few feet closer each blink until they circled the cruiser. Their hum matched my radio's carrier frequency exactly. Inside the car, the display lit with an unfamiliar CAD window automatically running a log, entries filling themselves in real time. Incident: loop control exercise. Reporting officer, Trooper D. Rayos. Under disposition, it typed on its own. Successful containment 00. I slammed reverse. The gravel didn't move. Looking up, every worker stood in a new position, helmets tilted toward me, smiles stretched just enough to reveal empty darkness behind the visors. They began reciting coordinates in unison, low chant bleeding through the scanner network. 1098, 1098. Heat flared around the car. Outside temperature read 122, though it was winter. Then, as sudden as a power cut, all light blinked out, flares, cones, sky, leaving only starlight and a single shadow where my cruiser's beam should have hit the camper. Sand. The shape was a man's outline, hand raised as if holding a mic, repeating my own last call. 94 Delta, traffic control complete. And then even the stars folded in, the desert swallowing every reflection, until the hum alone carried me forward. Red-blue flashes rolled up from behind, slow and steady, like a parade too tired to stay celebratory. Rear view filled with a convoy of cruisers, 6 Crown Vics, antennas trembling but sirens mute. Their lights pulsed perfectly out of sync, rhythm more heartbeat than emergency. Relief came first, reinforcements, until I noticed the logos. Paint scuffed pale, doors labeled Arizona State Police, a name retired in 1974. The nearest driver waved with exaggerated calm. "Everything's handled now, Delta," echoed through both speakers, though his windows stayed sealed. They boxed my Charger in and idled, engines whisper quiet. When the lead car door opened, a man stepped out, crisp in an old khaki uniform, pistol belt starched and gleaming. He couldn't have been more than 30, but the badge on his chest bore a date-stamped 5/24/57 and a rank long defunct, Highway Patrol Chief. "Good to have you on site," he said, his voice transmitted half a second earlier from my own dashboard speaker. He nodded toward the dunes. "Scene's ready for you." I asked what scene. He smiled. "You'll remember once it's written up." Then he turned, waving to the others to disperse. Their footsteps left no impressions, just shimmered tracers that lingered before the sand swallowed them. Through the heat distortion, I saw their cruisers aging in place, decals fading, metal dulling, and within their windshields, flickers of figures seated 10 degrees off alignment like film duplicates out of register. Every few seconds, the whole convoy blinked, not vanished, just skipped forward a frame. They circled a patch of desert glowing faintly amber. At its center lay a twisted roll cage in scattered chrome, pieces of something large that had burned and been buried, then uncovered again. Across the wreck's side glinted remnants of blue paint. In the broken door, faint ghost of lettering, half erased but unmistakable, State Trooper, Unit 94 Delta. Dispatch, both versions in stereo, spoke from everywhere at once. "Advise scene secured. Report completion of loop incident." The desert answered with the faint click of 2 mics pressed at the same instant, then silence, as if waiting for my signature. They ushered me toward the wreck as if this were perfectly routine. Every motion rehearsed, one pointing cones, one sketching on a clipboard, one murmuring status codes in a forgotten shorthand. Their boots made no sound. The burnt frame of the cruiser still shimmered with a false heat mirage. When I leaned close, my body cam lens fogged over and cleared again, revealing neat stacks of paper laid on the driver's seat, edges crisp like never burned. Forms, Department of Public Safety crash reports. Each listed my badge number, my name, same as on my current roster. But under status, the boxes were already checked. Killed in action. Vehicular fire. Stamped date, 5 minutes in the future. One of the old uniformed troopers waited beside me holding a clipboard of his own. "Need your signature, Delta," he said. His gloved hand trembled, but the paper didn't crisp in the heat. Looking up at his face, I caught the reflection of my patrol hat in his glasses, only I wasn't wearing it anymore. He smiled gently. "Paperwork keeps things linear." The sand under our feet shifted, pulling the charred frame slowly downward. Out of reflex, I keyed my shoulder mic. "Dispatch, I have multiple unregistered units, I think." "Multiple unregistered units," the echo repeated, quieter. Another trooper stepped forward and placed a radio on the hood. Its speakers bled white noise that formed words over time, like conversation rising out of water. All available units accounted for. Loop integrity stable. Departure clearance in T-5. Inside the smoke swirled, flashes appeared. Snapshots of someone climbing into this same cruiser, gesture half-second out of sync. Me, but not me, burning in rewind. Every frame erased itself as the channel hissed. Report complete. Panic hit only after rational thought failed. I backed away, boots sinking into hot dust. Not me, I said. The clipboard trooper tilted his head. That's what they all say. He lifted the radio higher. Through it, the digital voice of dispatch, my own cadenced tone, spoke clearly. Officer Reyes, repeat, you are cleared for decommission. Light erupted behind the wreck, flare white yet silent. My skin prickled, hair rising under uniform Kevlar. For an instant, every outdated uniform shivered, outlines turning transparent and filled with starlight, all of them facing me. They began saluting slowly, motion lagging like echoes. I turned and ran for the highway, but the same line of cruisers awaited there, engines idling beside a new raised green sign. Mile 113. In memoriam, Trooper Daniel Reyes, end of watch, 11:13. The flicker under the lettering was flame, or handwriting still being written. I stumbled backward from the sign, boots scraping asphalt that felt soft as felt under the tread. The wreckage behind me wasn't burning anymore. It was rotating, slow as the second hand of a clock, metal curling inward until glass and chrome flattened into the road surface like ink drying back into the page. The sirens still flashed, but they'd lost color, only pulses of white and black radiating like heartbeats. For the first time all night, I could hear the desert itself shifting underneath, dunes slithering in graceful arcs that overlapped like ripples from a single dropped stone. Every radio in every Phantom cruiser keyed up at once, feedback folding into an unnatural harmony. Zone realignment in progress, said the not dispatcher, tone polite, unhurried. Please remain within designated history. Heard that somewhere in training once. Stay in history. They told us it meant don't chase ghosts. Now it sounded like commandment. A dust wall rolled from the west, copper bright under lightning that had no clouds to hide in. When it hit the convoy, cars flickered between model years, chrome 50s fronts becoming 80s outlines, decals morphing, bulbs changing glass density. But in each flash, the same smudged silhouette sat behind steering wheels, calm, waiting. Somewhere among them, I saw my own reflection slide from fresh uniform to bleached skeleton and back again. The vibration rose until teeth ached. Through the blur of sound, one final clear voice glided over the rest. Neither male nor female this time, just balanced and certain. Loop expanding. Officer confirmed. Data will stabilize. I thumbed the emergency kill to every device, radio, dash, body cam, but even with power off, I still heard the signal in pulse between heartbeats. Light washed everything, the same amber as that first Phantom sunset. The road folds straight again, the mountains flatten another mile outward. Desert turning itself into a stage reset. When the noise cut out, I stood alone beside a single car, mine, or a version of it, spotless, idling quietly. The CAD screen glowed with one silent line, return to dispatch, acknowledgement required. And something inside the speaker breathed enough air to make the hairs on my neck lift. Your turn, it said softly. Don't keep them waiting. For the first time all night, the real channel cut through, tinny, broken, but unmistakably human. Reyes, we're pulling everything we can. You've been transmitting the same message 13 hours straight. Where the hell are you? Marker 113, I said, before realizing I didn't even know which direction I faced anymore. The word hung, ridiculous, half-static. There is no marker 113. I know, I whispered. Then where am I? A burst of feedback melted into what sounded like crying, someone in the background of dispatch breathing hard between words. Listen to me, Daniel. Cut power to your vehicle. Take your secondary radio, get out of the car. Walk east until sunrise. Do not answer anyone on channel 1 or the mirror frequency. Understood? Mirror frequency? You'll know. It sounds like us. The line went dead, leaving a click that echoed in my ear long after. I shut off ignition. Silence dropped heavy. The desert changed with it, shadows receding out of sequence like film winding backward. I started walking. Compass needle spun. GPS read 0 long 0 lat. No sky data. Still, I headed toward what felt like east. Every few dozen yards, the mic in my hand crackled. 94 Delta, confirm clearance. Same calm cadence, never shouting, never desperate. Behind it, barely audible, real dispatch overlapping, begging, "Don't respond." Halfway to nowhere, headlights bloomed on the horizon, hundreds of them, convoy of past and present cruisers tracing the same straight line I'd just abandoned. Each carried someone in my uniform, shoulders hunched over a steering wheel, expression identical. The mirrored channel spoke once more, closer now, inside my helmet rather than the speaker. Loop needs closure, officer. Sign off so it stops. I dropped the radio, kept walking until the ground cooled beneath my boots and the sky behind the mountains started to turn silver. That's when I realized sunrise wasn't light. It was the flash bar of patrol cars cresting the horizon, amber spinning like dawn, trying to convince me it was morning. The glow kept widening, orange bleeding up the sky as if 100 wrecks were burning just beyond the ridge. Every law of perspective failed. The lighthouses of cruisers never drew closer, yet the desert lit evenly, too uniform for dawn. I stopped counting the breaths of wind timed perfectly with the spin of their bars. Each pulse carried the whisper of a siren that never actually came. When the light reached me, shadows collapsed forward instead of back. My outline stretched across the road until it kissed the tires of my own parked Charger, waiting pristine, exhaust fog rolling backward into the tailpipe. Engine murmured like a purring animal learning speech. Door opened itself, interior neat, MDT alive on standby, cursor blinking patient. I leaned in and froze. On the screen waited a half-written message field. To Patrol Dispatch. End of watch report. Reyes D. All loops closed. All routes clear. The remaining space blinked. Behind it, the reflection in the dark glass wasn't me. It wore my uniform, but its badge number stopped at 113, same digits as the marker. The twins smiled, lips moving a frame ahead of my breathing. Just type it, it said through the cooling metal. Once you file the report, it lets you go. The air around the car shimmered. Across the desert, mile markers reappeared. Place markers climbing sequentially, 114, 115, and so on, each appearing as the one behind vanished. The road repaired itself through time like rewound tape. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Behind me, real daylight finally broke, the kind that warms skin, not eyes, and the phantom dawn retreated in staggered flashes. Inside the MDT, one final line typed itself without touch. Loop closed, acknowledged. Wind swept the cab clean of heat, and for a moment I smelled only creosote and sun, normal desert again. Then radio static fluttered once, the original dispatcher's voice, weary, half hope, half mourning. Welcome back, 94 Delta. Please advise status. I looked at the horizon. No markers at all anymore, just the perfect straight shot of 191 stretching forever north, so empty it hummed. Status? I whispered. Still on patrol. They cleared me for duty a month later. Psych eval said stress-induced fugue, environmental hallucination. No alcohol, no heat stroke, no disciplinary notes, so they shrugged, called it overexertion and handed back the badge. Paperwork makes everything linear. I still patrol 191 between Wilcox and Clifton. Same dust, same stretch, yet the signs feel newer every week. Paint too bright, edges unweathered. When I asked maintenance, they swore they haven't replaced any posts since 14. Night shifts are quiet again, except for the hum. It's subtle, like the sound you hear when radio carriers fade, a tone that syncs perfectly with your heartbeat once you notice it. Now and then my unit's CAD fields autofill before I type. Incident numbers appear seconds before dispatch calls them in. Minor stuff, until they start matching reports from the following day. Last Wednesday, I pulled a semi out of a wash during a monsoon. While waiting on tow, I flipped through frequencies out of boredom. Between 19 and 20 megahertz, a channel opened where no channel lives. Voices in clipped DPS lingo traded codes I didn't recognize. They were running my patrol in real time. Same unit number, same mile markers I just passed, even the same jokes we tell to one another over coffee. One line froze me cold. Copy that, 9-4 Delta. He made the loop once. He'll make it again. I turned off the mic. The carrier stayed, soft and polite, like somebody breathing through the static, waiting. Every few nights, I still hear my own call sign whispered under the desert hum, asking for verification at marker 113. No one but me can pull the signal. Technicians confirm it isn't there. Maybe it's a reflection, maybe a copy of all of us trapped in the frequency forever, running traffic on roads that never end. Maybe duty never lets go. If you ever find yourself driving the 191 past midnight and your scanner crackles with a woman repeating your name, don't answer. Keep rolling, keep your eyes on the asphalt, and let the mile markers pass. The desert remembers every voice it captures. Don't let it learn yours.